My name's Jerry Bayless, and I know Wally's family, at least his sons and daughters, well. And this is really a sad occasion because Wally was a dear friend, maybe one of the best friends I've ever had in my life. And that came about because Wally and Jack McDermott and I were involved in building Optimist clubs in other communities. And we did a lot of that in different communities. And we spent hours and hours driving in a car. And I think when you're in close confines like that, you probably get to know someone better than just in the ordinary conversation. And so that's how the three of us got really well acquainted. And the Optimist Club motto is Friend of Youth. And there isn't anyone in all of Optimist International that displays that and lives it like Wally did. He loved youth, and he worked very hard at sports activities, soccer, basketball, tennis, and also in other adventures that we did, like our Christmas trees. He was one of our leaders, and he didn't just lead, he pitched in, and he worked really hard at making that a success. So he was a dedicated member, just a great person, and I know he loved his family. If we were riding in the car together and I said something about how's your family, well, maybe I shouldn't have said that because I'd get a lot of information about how you all were doing. And of course, Brian, when you see this, I'm sure you remember that you were in my class in fluid mechanics, did many years ago. And I didn't tell Wally how you were doing because I was afraid he might get upset if he thought you were sloughing off. But that wasn't the problem. You were a good student, and I enjoyed having you. And Wally was just a super person. And I think it's a time of sadness, but those of us that knew him well and loved him so much just have to realize that this is a time we celebrate his life, and if we think about what he did, it will inspire all of us to try to follow in his footsteps. So thank you, and God bless you.
My name is Ron Warren. Wally Craig was my sponsor. He was very instrumental in my life in the Optimist Club and in the Corey League, which I changed the ribs. I hope to one day meet him upstairs.
All right, I want to let you know that it was Wally Craig's idea that I became a member of the Optimist Club. Knew Wally from church and also the UMR Minor Golf Course when he invited me to a club meeting. So he was always very helpful to the club, and when he called at Christmas time and needed people at the tree lot, he knew he could count on me to come. I couldn't tell him no.
When I think of Wally Craig, I think of somebody who's funny, somebody who's just a real good friend, and has meant so much to so many people. Wally wasn't a kid, but he was a kid at heart, and he worked so, appreciated the little kids so much, and I've heard so many people who now aren't kids anymore, but how much he meant to them. And I think of some of the fun times. I think about some of the Optimist programs, and particularly when he had we had a program on an Elvis Presley impersonator. And Wally, somebody who worked for him had a relative who was an Elvis impersonator, and so Wally tried to help him out, in creating a program. So one time we rented or somehow we were able to get to a school facility, and we sold tickets, printed tickets, and sold them in the community. We took our cigar boxes down to Kroger's and to the banks and all that, and so Wally, I think it was Wally said, "Hey, you can count on half your crowd will buy advance tickets." So on Friday before we had this event, we picked up all the boxes and we had 16 tickets sold. And so I think we had almost 30 people to hear Elvis. Wally he hadn't heard the last of that. And then there's so many other things there. I remember a few times when we played golf together, we tried to, and he was giving me tips, pointers, things that people had told him, and he would be very deliberate. He'd stand there and he'd look and he'd size up everything, and before he'd swing, then I couldn't take it. I couldn't stand it. So I'd walk up there and I'd hit the ball, and it didn't go very far, very straight, but Wally concluded I wasn't a very good student. So, but we had fun. And so kids, you guys, we all appreciate so much. We remember, some of us remember some of you better than others, but know that Wally's been very special. He's special in our heart, and we're just the better for it, for knowing Wally Craig.
Optimist Wally Craig was one of my idols in the Optimist Club. And because he meant so much to me, I'd like to read the words I've written. He showed us all how to be a good Optimist Club member in his willingness to take on the tough assignments, such as scheduling workers for the Christmas tree lot, to the rewarding ones of helping the youth learn soccer and tennis and other sports. He was always there when somebody was needed to do a job that nobody else wanted to do. I strive to be like him. You could always call on Wally for any help in any program and he'd be there. His smile was slow, but it was the biggest smile you've ever seen, and it always made me happy.
Okay, Wally and my wife's family have been friends for years and years. Actually, Wally was one of the first optimists I met when Susan and I moved back up here, and he was working hard at keeping us lined out at the tree lot. So since he knew Susan when she was little, when Wally would call and ask me to help, she would hang up the phone, say it's Wally, and start making me a sandwich because she'd know I would say yes. You couldn't say no to Wally. I also want to pass along that Susan and Jack McDermott's wife, Mary Jo, send their sympathy. They too will miss him very much. Mary Jo said some of the most pleasant times she had was when she used to make homemade bread, and Jack and Wally would sit at the kitchen table of their big farm kitchen out there and eat it. And so Wally will be missed. He was a fine man. I'm proud to call him a friend. Thank you.
The year I was president, we tried to build a club. Mostly it was Jack and Wally and myself, a few other club members involved, in Pacific. And I'd already been elected lieutenant governor, and I wanted to be distinguished president. And to do that, I had to get a new club built. And we worked and we worked and we worked, and it took 35 members to have enough to charter a member card Optimist International. And at the end of the administrative year, right at the very end, we had 27 or 28 paid members who didn't have enough to make it. So we stopped that effort. Well, after the first of the next year, when I was lieutenant governor, our district governor, Vern Mitchell was his name, from Kansas City, he called me and wanted to know about that club. He knew we didn't make it, and I said, well, we're just gonna stop. We're gonna quit. He said, no. He said, let's go ahead and build that club. Well, he convinced me to go ahead and revive that effort. Well, Wally was the president who followed me, and so I contacted Wally, and he said, well, I guess it's okay. He said, but I don't want to follow your footsteps. And I said, don't worry about it. So let's just go ahead and build it. So 20 some weeks later, we built that club. So I always kidded Wally about following in my footsteps.
I'm very sorry for your loss. Optimist Wally was very near and dear to my heart, always brought a smile to my face, and always had a smile on his face. He gave true meaning to what our club was all about and inspired me to be a better member. There's not a time that I walk out on the soccer field that I don't think about he and Marge, keeping time there every Saturday, several Saturdays in a row. I'm really going to miss him, and again, you're in our thoughts and prayers.
When my son was 5 years old, I met Wally out on the soccer field. I was coaching Optimist Soccer, and for about 3 years he would work on me every game, every season to get me to join the Optimist Club. And after about 3 years I finally gave in, and joining the Optimist Club is one of the best things I've ever done, one of the things that brings me the most joy, and I'm very thankful that I met him, and I missed him when he left for Texas, and I miss him now.
I've known Wally for several years, and when I first met him, he took my daughter, who didn't know what her left foot from her right foot, and taught her how to play softball, and was her softball coach for about 3 years. And then he was always there with a big smile at Optimist Club meetings. And after we retired, he and I got together and along with Don Olds, and we pretty well run the Christmas tree farm and Wally was always the organizer. He got everybody lined up and told them what time they were supposed to be there, and made sure that we had a crew, and I kind of supervised the crew, so Wally and I got real close during those years, and we're sure going to miss him.